Welcome back, learners. I know we all are under house arrest these days. We can't go out anywhere, neither can we invite our friends and relatives home because we need to take all the precautions that are required to protect ourselves from COVID 19. But just think of the time when you had your guests over to your house, maybe during the summer vacations or for your birthday party. What fun it was, isn't it? We show all the hospitality towards the guests when they come to a house because that is what we are taught in Indian culture. Atithi Devo Bhava, which means that the guest is God. We show the love and the care and all the hospitality towards our guests. This is exactly what we are going to learn today through this beautiful poem, The Guest House, written by a famous Persian poet called Jalaluddin Rumi. Jalaluddin Rumi was born in the year 1207 and died in 1273. He had written many poems in the Persian language, one of them being The Guest House, which we are going to read today and understand what it means, which was later translated into English by Coleman Barks. In the upcoming slide, you will know more about Jalaluddin Rumi through a small video on his life. Let's proceed further.
In the town of Konya, in central Turkey, in the middle of the 13th century, a prominent religious scholar named Jalaluddin Rumi was suddenly separated from his teacher and spiritual friend. In his grief, he took hold of a column and began turning. Verses of poetry began pouring out of him. Remarkable poetry. His students wrote the words down. 700 years later, Rumi's poetry is being discovered in the West. He is, in fact, the best-selling poet in America. Come to the orchard in spring. There is light and wine and sweethearts in the pomegranate flowers. If you do not come, these do not matter. If you do come, these do not matter. Rumi was born September 30th, 1207, near Balkh, Afghanistan, which was then part of the Persian Empire. When Rumi was still a child, his family was forced to flee the oncoming armies of Genghis Khan. After years of travel, they settled in Konya, Turkey, an important stop on the Silk Road and a meeting point of many cultures: Islamic, Judeo-Christian, Hindu, and Buddhist. Rumi's father became the head of a Sufi learning community. The Sufis are an ancient spiritual order, and according to many Sufis, the essential truths of Sufism exist in all religions.
The Sufis are a remarkable band in the history of religions. They are the mystics of Islam. And as the mystics of Islam, the Sufis, we can connect with because they're talking about these wonderful, sublime truths which have a way of piercing directly into the human heart wherever it is.
The Sufis used to walk, down several roads, visiting with the Christians, visiting with Islam, visiting in all of the great religions, really. I mean, that's part of the nature of this kind of fluid imagination. It crosses boundaries. It penetrates, and it even slips by, and it works by way of humor. It works by way of stunning imagery. It works in many different ways, as if to keep bringing people to some deep human well.
Upon his father's death, Rumi became the head of the learning community. His life seems to have been a fairly normal one for a religious scholar, teaching, meditating, helping the poor, until the late fall of 1244, when he met a stranger, a wandering dervish, Shams of Tabriz.
Rumi's genius was triggered by an actual human being, an encounter with this mysterious figure, Shams of Tabriz.
He was an intense, fierce mountain meditator. Those kind of people, like Thoreau magnified 5 times.
When you feel your lips becoming infinite and sweet, like a moon in a sky. When you feel that spaciousness inside, Shams of Tabriz will be there too. Something opens our wings. Something makes boredom and hurt disappear. Someone fills the cup in front of us. We taste only sacredness.
I'm sure you must have enjoyed the small video on Rumi, and by now you must be aware of the greatness of this poet called Jalaluddin Rumi. Just sit back and listen to this beautiful poem, The Guest House, written by him, as I read it out to you. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they are a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still, treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice. Meet them at the door, laughing, and invite them in. Be grateful for whatever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. Okay, learners, let's begin with the explanation of this poem stanza-wise. But before I proceed with the explanation of the poem, I told you about Jalaluddin Rumi, that he was a Sufi poet. Now, Sufi is a Persian word which in English means mystic. So we can also call Jalaluddin Rumi as a mystic poet. Now, what does the word mystic means? Mystic means a person who seeks to obtain unity with God through spiritual means which are beyond human intellect. So Jalaluddin Rumi in this first stanza compares human being to a guest house. So if you read the first line, this being human is a guest house. He has used a metaphor to compare human beings to a guest house. Now you know the difference between a metaphor and a simile. In a simile, we use the words like and as to compare two things. But in a metaphor, although we are comparing two things, in this case we are comparing a human being to a guest house without the use of words like and as. So Jalaluddin Rumi says that human beings are like guest house. Like in a guest house, every morning a new arrival comes. You have guests every morning who check into a hotel. Similarly, a human being experiences various emotions every day. The arrival of emotions happen every day. Here in this line, there is a very strong symbolism where Rumi compares the essence of being human to the idea of a guest house, meaning that we are vessels for innumerable experiences and emotions throughout our lives. He further explains it by saying, a joy, a depression, a meanness. These are all emotions that we as human beings experience every day. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Sometimes you have in a guest house people who are unexpected. When you go to a guest house or when you go to a hotel, you need to have a booking in the hotel. But sometimes due to some urgent work, you just enter into a hotel without any reservations. So similarly, he says that a human body experiences certain emotions which he would not have expected otherwise. He experiences a varied range of emotions beginning from joy to depression to sometimes even being mean. Now in the second stanza, Rumi says that we must welcome and entertain any emotion that comes to our mind. No matter what kind of emotions we experience, whether we experience emotions of happiness, joy, or sadness, we must accept those emotions and entertain them because each emotion that a human body experiences teaches them a lesson for a lifetime. Rumi is telling us that every human experience is valuable. This poem is most simply about the importance of accepting everything that approaches us over the years rather than picking and choosing. So we can't always pick and choose our emotions. Otherwise, we would never pick sadness or sorrows, isn't it? Who wants to become sad? Everyone wants to be happy and lead a life full of happiness and joy. But we must understand that all these experiences teaches us lessons. They teach us positivity. They make us strong. He has compared these emotions to those rowdy guests who enter a guest house and they sometimes, break the furniture of the guest house. They do not know how to stay in a guest house properly. But that does not stop the guest houses from being hospitable towards its other guests. They still continue to serve their guests with great hospitality, even after those bitter experiences of few rowdy guests that enter their guest houses. So similarly, we must also accept whatever emotions comes to us and we must try and learn from those emotions. Because then he says he may be clearing you out for some new delight. Now here the word he refers to the emotions. So the emotions which are full of sorrows and sadness or dejection, they also teach you some lesson because they pave way for happiness. Every coin has two sides. So if we experience sadness today, obviously it will pave way for happiness tomorrow. So don't get baffled with the kind of emotions you experience. You must always take them with a pinch of salt and understand that they will pave way for happiness in future, and they will give you a lesson for a lifetime. Now, if you read the first sentence of this stanza, welcome and entertain them all, even if they are a crowd of sorrows. Now, here Rumi is referring to the emotions, but the word welcome and entertain are normally used for a human being. But here they are being used for emotions, which are non-living things. So these two, the first two lines of the poem, are personification, where a human quality is being used for a non-human thing, which is emotions. And the last two lines also, he may be clearing you out for some new delight. Again, the word he or the pronoun he is used for emotions, which is not a person. But here the poet has used personification, so he has compared emotions to a human being. Now let's understand the last stanza of the poem, which says, the dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door and invite them in. Be grateful for whatever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. So the poet says that the dark thoughts, the thoughts of shame and malice. What do you understand by the word malice? Malice means ill will. When a person has the desire to harm someone, that is called malice. He has malice in his heart. He is not thinking good about others. So it is being human. We all experience such thoughts in our mind at some point of time. We do have feelings of malice towards other people. Sometimes we feel ashamed of certain acts of ours. But don't get worried by such emotions. You must meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Don't be scared of them. Invite them in. Just like we invite our guests over to our houses, when you have someone ringing the bell of your house, and if that person is known to you, you greet him with a smile on your face and you invite the person inside your house. Isn't it? Similarly, the poet says, no matter what kind of emotions you experience, even if those emotions are dark, you must accept them, invite them inside your body, and welcome them with open arms. Be grateful for whatever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. So the poet also says, don't think that those emotions are useless. Those emotions are very, very important. They have been sent by God to teach you a lesson and to make you a good human being. I explained you in the first slide that the Indian culture teaches us to be hospitable towards our guests. We follow the philosophy of Atithi Devo Bhava, which means you do not know the guest that is coming into your house is a messenger from God. So you must greet them and welcome them with open arms and shower all your love, affection, and hospitality on those guests. Okay, children, I hope you all enjoyed this poem and you must have understood the poem too. And there's a little exercise that I would want you all to do it in your notebooks, which is at the back of the poem in your books. Exercise A, which is the question answers, and B, which is think and answer. Do both these exercises in your notebooks. Also read about the Persian poet Rumi, which is again at the back of the poem in your books, literature reader, and about the extended metaphor. Now, I told you in the presentation what a metaphor means. This poem is a perfect example of an extended metaphor, which means that the comparison between two things happens throughout the poem. So just read it once, both the explanation of the extended metaphor and about the poet Rumi from your book's literature readers, and do both the exercises A and B in your notebooks. A worksheet of the same poem, The Guest House, is also uploaded on Unilearn. You can take a printout of that worksheet, complete it, and paste it in your notebooks. In case you seek any clarifications regarding any of the exercises or the worksheet that has been put up on Unilearn, you can always come to me once the school resumes. Thank you, bye, and see you again.